So, hello guys, welcome to my third part of backpropagation algorithm. In this backpropagation algorithm, we have completed in the first pass, we have completed the forward pass of backpropagation learning algorithm. In second part, I have completed the change in weight at output layer neuron, and now I'm going to derive the change in weight between the hidden layer and the output and the input layer neuron. So in the backward pass we'll go, as I told you, in forward pass we'll go input to hidden to output layer. This is my forward pass, and in backward pass In backward pass, I will go in reverse order. This is input, hidden output. So first we'll change the weight between hidden and output layer. So this I completed in the second part. Now, in third part, I'm going to complete the change in weight between the hidden and input layer. So now I'll consider all my neurons at input layer as I, all my neurons at hidden layer as J, and all my neurons at output layer as K. So this will become KJ. Rather than this is JI, this will become W of Kj. Okay, this is my W of Kj, and this is my change in weight W of Ji. So this part I'm going to cover the derivation of change in weight between hidden and input layer. Sorry. So this is the calculation for the change in weight between output and hidden layer. We have derived the formula. The weight change is equal to learning rate into local gradient into the input. So assuming that learning rate as 0.1, this is the error. This is my expected output for the first tuple I have applied for the first tuple, and this is pattern by pattern learning. In case of pattern by pattern learning, I'll produce every pattern to the network and I'll calculate the error, and network error I'm going to minimize. So this is the input we have produced. Then we have weighted sum, activation function, and after applying the weighted sum and activation function, we got this predicted output at the output neuron. This is my expected output. So subtracting the expected output from the predicted one, I'll get the error. So this is what is my error. Using this error, I can calculate the local gradient. The formula for local gradient is nothing but it is error into the local gradient is Ji. This is error at the jth neuron into the phi dash of Vj. Phi dash of Vj is the derivative of my activation function. So assuming that derivative is my sigmoid activation function. So if it is sigmoid activation function, the derivative for sigmoid is output into 1 minus output. This I tell you in this video how this derivative of sigmoid is going to be calculated. So using this formula, I'll calculate the local gradient, and using the local gradient, it is multiplied with the learning rate, local gradient and input. This gives me the change in weight. So once we have change in weight, then I can calculate the new weights. So let's go for the derivation first. So this is a quick recap of what we did in the last video. That is, we have calculated the derivative of error with respect to the weight if, again, now I'm changing the convention. jth neuron is available at the hidden layer, ith available in input layer, and kth available at output layer. So kth as my output neuron. So I need the derivative of error with respect to the weight, derivative of error with respect to weight, I cannot directly calculate. This is my network error. E of e raised power n is the network error. So first I need to calculate the derivative of this. Then I need to calculate the derivative of e with respect to ek. Then I need to calculate the derivative of ek with respect to yk with respect to vk with respect to the weight. So this is basically 1 into ek into minus 1 into the phi dash of k into xj. Xj is the input to the kth neuron. So because weight is the proportional to negative of error with respect to weight. So if I substitute all these value, this is my learning rate into error into derivative of the activation function into the input, where the wji, sorry, this is not ji, this is delta of k. This is delta of k. Please correct it. This is delta of k. Delta of k is the local gradient of kth output neuron. Local gradient of kth output neuron. We need not to calculate local gradient again and again for all change in weight. The local gradient can be calculated once only, and substituting in the formula for learning rate local gradient into input will give you the change in weight. So we'll do it as a whole sum in next video or in the later part of this video. First, we'll do the derivation for weight change between the hidden and the input layer. So hidden and input layer, this is a weight change formula for the if the neuron is present at output layer. Okay, so now we are in a situation where my neuron, the neuron K is available at the output layer. This is the output of kth neuron. So this is my output layer. This one is my output layer. And for calculating y, we need to apply the activation function. Before applying the activation function, we need to take the weighted sum. So this kth neuron must be connected to some j neuron at hidden layer. Please mind it, this k neuron is connected to some neuron at previous layer, some j neuron at previous layer. Then this jth neuron is available at hidden layer. This jth neuron is available at hidden layer. The output of this jth neuron is a activation function of the weighted sum at this jth neuron. This is my weighted sum. So Vi represent as the weighted sum, and y I represent as the output of this particular neuron. So this is again summation of, and this jth neuron is connected to some I neuron at input layer. So this is my input layer basically. So we are in this kind of situation. First we'll be calculating the weighted sum, then we'll be calculating the activation function on the weighted sum. That gives me the output of that particular neuron. Then the output, the neuron available at output layer must be connected to some j neuron at hidden layer. So we'll be first calculating the weighted sum, then activation function, and then the output of that output neuron. So this is the output of, this is output of neuron K at output layer, and this is output of neuron K neuron J at hidden layer. Okay, and this is my activation function. This activation function may be same or may be different. Please mind it. It's not mandatory that all activation functions are same. It can be same or it can be. We have written the same name for the activation function, but this is a general symbol for activation function. This is my desired output. Then we have desired output. Using this desired output, I'll calculate the error. This is my error of neuron. This is the error at neuron K, neuron K. And N is my number of pattern. This is number of pattern, sorry. This is useful only when we are doing batch learning. This n is small n is useful when we are going for the batch learning. Here we are not going for the batch learning. And this represent VK represent my weighted sum. Okay. So now we'll go for the change in weight between the hidden and the input layer. So I want to derive the formula for change in weight between hidden and input layer. Okay. Last video it was hidden and output layer. This in between these two. Okay. So now go for the derivation. So here is the smaller portion of that. Now my output neuron is the kth neuron, hidden is the jth neuron, input is the ith neuron. And previously we did the weight change kj. Now we'll do the weight change ji. So the situation is now I'm drawing my own network what we are using in the last video. Okay, that is it is omega lambda a b c, then we have alpha and beta. Okay, and it is a fully connected network. Okay, so this is a fully connected network. We have three. So we found the weight change formula for W of alpha A, W of alpha B, W of alpha C, W of beta A, beta C, B and beta C. Now we'll be finding a formula for weight change between A omega, A lambda, this is W of B lambda. This one is B omega. This one is W of C omega. And this one is W of C lambda. This one is W of C lambda. Okay. So let's take one weight, anyone, like I want to find the change in weight for A omega. So this A omega, now my challenge is we don't have error. My local gradient was for the output layer, the local gradient of delta of K, it is error K into phi dash of Vk. We found the local gradient as error into the derivative of uh, weighted sum. So if we have derivative of weighted sum is okay, we can have at the hidden layer as well, but we don't have this error term because error was ek was it is target output minus the network output. So we don't have this target output here at the hidden layer. This can be targets are available only at my output layer. So we don't have target. So because we don't have target at the hidden layer, we cannot calculate this error at the hidden layer. So the challenge is how we are going to define, and my weight change formula was the learning rate into the local gradient of what we require, local gradient of A into the input is the output of the omega neuron. So this is the formula for weight change. Now I need to, these two is okay, learning rate and output I can arrange. But how to arrange this local gradient? What will be the local gradient of delta A? If we are writing local gradient of delta A is error at A. So we don't have this error. This error is not available to me at a neuron because we don't have target here. So what we need to do is we need to borrow the local gradient. What we need to do is to calculate local gradient of hidden neuron. We need to borrow local gradient of output neuron. Okay, because the errors are available at output neuron, so we can have the local gradient can be calculated at the output neuron only. But now the question is, for whom we will borrow the local gradient. So if I see the connections, this A neuron is connected with alpha and beta both. So if we take the local gradient of alpha only, this is not justified. So what we need to do is we need to take the local gradient for alpha and beta both, because this neuron has a connection from alpha and beta both. So both are going to affect the output of this particular, both are going to affect in weight change of this eighth neuron. But now again the question comes that, uh, eh, can we do, can we take the local gradient of alpha and beta as it is? No, because we have weights also in between these two. We have the weight involved in between these two. So we have W of alpha A and W of beta A. I need to multiply this local gradients of output layer with the weights between them. So this is beta A. And now if you do the summation, this will give you the local gradient of a neuron with the derivative of activation function of A, the weighted sum at A. So this is my local gradient of a hidden neuron. Hidden neuron. Similarly, I can do for local gradient of B. It is weight of alpha. Again, B neuron is also connected with alpha and beta both. So we have weight between alpha and B into the local gradient of alpha plus weight between beta and B into the local gradient of beta multiplied with the derivative of activation function and the weighted sum at neuron B. Similarly, if I want local gradient for C, this is weights of alpha and C. C again is connected with alpha and beta both. So I want the weight between alpha C, the local gradient of alpha plus weights between beta and C, local gradient of beta into the activation derivative of activation function, that is Vc. Okay, so I got the local gradients for all three um, hidden neuron, and once we have the local gradient, I can simply calculate the weight change. The weight change is nothing but it is learning rate into local gradient into the output of neuron at previous layer or input to this particular neuron. So this completes my back propagation. Now I summarize the whole. For summarization as whole, here it is derivative. You can see the weight change between the hidden and the input. Now jth is my hidden neuron and ith is my input neuron. This is proportional to the derivative of error with respect to WGI. I cannot have a derivative of error with respect to WGI. I need to go with the chain rule. So if we go with the chain rule, I want the derivative of error with respect to the derivative of activation function at output layer. This is summation of all neuron available. K is the all neuron available at the output layer. Then we have derivative of AK over A is nothing but is the activation function. A is the activation function for kth neuron, for kth neuron. And this is my weighted sum. Net K is the weighted sum, what we represented as weighted sum of kth neuron. So this we represented as Vk, this we represented as Yk, okay. Then this is the activation function of jth neuron, which is connected with the kth neuron at output layer. So we have derivative of, again, assuming that all my activation functions as sigmoid, assuming all activation function are sigmoid. So if they are sigmoid, formula for sigmoid is sigmoid activation function. It is 1 over 1 plus e raised to power minus x. If I take the derivative of this gives me the derivative of this. If you don't know the derivative, please read calculus how to find derivatives. I cannot teach derivatives here because this video is going in 3 parts. So this is the derivative of my sigmoid activation function. I can write this is, sorry, this is plus. I can write this in 2 parts, phi dash of x. I can write as um e raised to power minus x, 1 plus e raised to power minus x into 1 over 1 plus e raised to power minus x, and this is nothing but this is 1 minus x into uh, phi of x, sorry, 1 minus phi of sorry. Let me write it again. This is 1 minus phi of x into phi of x. And this phi of x is nothing but is the output. So this is 1 minus output into the output. If I say y is equal to phi of x. So this is what, it is the same thing written here. So this is the output activation function, output of the activation function j. So this is output into 1 minus output. This one is output into 1 minus output. Uh, Local gradient for the output layer. K is the neuron at output layer. So this gives me error Tk minus Ak. This gives me the error at the kth neuron. This gives me the derivative of the local gradient, that is Vk, and this is the weight between kth and the jth neuron. The two neurons which is connected, k is the neuron at output layer, j is the neuron at the hidden layer. So weight between the output and the hidden neuron, and this whole, the summation, this is the summation of all neurons available at my kth layer. This is my learning rate. This is my learning rate. And here it is again. This is output into 1 minus output. This is for the, this is for the derivative of activation function of hidden jth hidden neuron. Hidden neuron. So I'm making a line so that you can have a bifurcation here. I've written sub everything missed actually. Yeah, this is the derivative of sigmoid. This portion is the derivative of sigmoid. This is derivative of sigmoid. It is clearly written in the next slide. Okay. So this is my learning rate, local gradient into the output of ith, yeah, input coming from the ith neuron, or output of the this is the output of ith neuron. This is not input. Input coming to the jth neuron. AI is the input coming to the jth neuron, or this is input to jth neuron coming from the ith input neuron. Okay, so I feel I missed everything. So let me clarify. This is the derivative of sigmoid. You can see it is clearly written here. Um, you can go through it. Those who are interested in knowing the derivative of sigmoid. And my weight change can be positive or it can be negative depending on my value of the local gradient. So I can have the lower weight if my local gradient is high. If the local gradient is low, then I'm going to increase the weight. Higher the weight is if we have something positive value, lower the weight if we have the negative value. So it all depends on my local gradient. So uh, if I summarize the whole lecture, I'm summarizing it here only because I don't have any extra slides. So for summarizing it, my network was this one. I have two neurons at input layer. I have three neurons at hidden layer, and I have two neurons at output layer. So this is A, this is B, this is C, and here it is alpha and beta, and all are connected. So we have three connections at alpha, sorry, and we have three connections at beta. We have two connections at A, two connections at B, and two connections at C. Okay. So there are weight matrix. We have defined the weight matrix. That weight matrix I'm having is this is W of A omega, W of B omega, W of C omega. Then we have W of A lambda, W of B lambda, and W of C lambda. All these weights we want to change, that is between input and hidden layer. And for the output layer, what we want to change is we want to change the weight between alpha A, change in weight between alpha B, change in weight between alpha C. And we want to change in weight between beta A, change in weight between beta B, and change in weight between beta C. I can write the formulas for change in weight using the indexes only. And the formula for a new weight is uh, Ji of new weight is using the old weight. I'll do the change in weight, add the change in weight in this, and the change in weight, as I said, the change in weight first we need to do for the output and the hidden layer. So change in weight, change in weights between output and hidden layer is, you can directly write by seeing the indexes only. This change in weight A alpha is learning rate into delta of alpha into Y of A. Change in weight as alpha B, it is learning rate into alpha, local gradient of alpha into YB. Change in weight for alpha C, it is learning rate, local gradient of alpha into YC. Similarly, I can do for beta as well. Beta A, it is learning rate into local gradient of beta into YA. Similarly, I'll do for beta B. This is learning rate into local gradient of beta into YB, and change in weight between beta C, that is learning rate into local gradient of beta into YC. Okay, this is for the uh, input and hidden layer, sorry, output and hidden layer. Then we have change in weight, change in weights for hidden and input layer. There we have the W of A omega, it is equal to learning rate into local gradient of A into Y of omega. Delta of learning rate of beta omega, it is learning rate into local gradient of B into Y of omega. Same, the change in weight C omega, it is learning rate into local gradient of C into Y of omega. Similarly, I can do for the second one, that is my change in weight alpha, sorry, A lambda, change in weight, B lambda, change in weight, C lambda. Okay, this is learning rate into local gradient of A into the y of lambda, learning rate, local gradient B into y lambda, learning rate, local gradient of B into y of lambda. Now coming to the local gradient of um, ABC, local gradient of ABC. The local gradient of A, B, and C, the hidden neuron, that is both of my hidden neuron is all three hidden neurons are connected with two output neurons. So it is summation of, this is summation of alpha A into the local gradient of alpha plus uh, weight between alpha, weight between beta and A into local gradient of beta, and this is multiplied with phi dash of y of A, V of A. Okay. Then we have W of alpha B delta of alpha plus W of beta B into local gradient of beta, and this is multiplied with phi dash of V of B, and now we have local W of alpha C, local gradient of alpha plus W of beta C, local gradient of beta into phi dash of Y of C. Now you have all the formulas available to you. You can substitute the values. The weights are the number, inputs are some numbers. You can substitute the values, you can substitute the numbers and calculate the change in weight. If you request me, then I'll make one video on changing of weight using this same formula. Okay, so that's all. This is my local gradients for hidden layer. These are my okay, sorry. I have forgot to write the local gradient for the output layer. So the local gradients for output layer is local gradient for output layer. For output layer, this is delta of alpha. It is error at alpha. Is phi dash of V of alpha. And the local gradient of beta, it is error at beta into the phi dash of V of beta. Okay. I'm writing it again. The delta of beta, it is error at beta and phi dash of V of beta. Okay, this is the local gradient for output layer, and these are my local gradient for hidden layer. These are my local gradient for hidden layer. So thank you very much. Hope you have learned from my video. This all is about the backpropagation learning algorithm. In the backpropagation learning algorithm, we will have a weight change rule. We'll be defining a formula for weight change rule, and that is the weight change rule. This is formula for the weight change rule. The weight change rule is the new weights are equal to the old weight into the change of weight, and this change of weight is nothing but is the learning rate local gradient into the input to this neuron. I'm writing y, though y is the output, x is the input, but this y, the output of previous layer, is the input to the next layer. So this is output of my input neuron. Output of input neuron is nothing but is the input to this particular neuron. So we are having x omega. Y omega is nothing but is equal to the x omega. Here we'll be having x lambda. So y omega is nothing but um, is equal to x of omega, and y delta also y lambda, it is also equal to x of lambda. y of a is y of a is nothing but y of a is nothing but x of alpha. But we have uh, x of alpha is equal to y of a, y of b, and y of c. All three will be the input to the alpha neuron. Same a, b, c, all three are the input to my beta neuron. So to make it clear, I'm writing here as ya, yb, yc. These are the output of these neurons. This is output of this neuron. 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 And this one is the output of this omega and the delta neuron. So thank you very much. If you like my video, please hit the like button. Share your comments. I want to refine. Thank you very much. Keep learning.